I am bearish on Plasma. In this video, we're going to go over all of the various different reasons why I am bearish on Plasma. I don't think it's going to do well long term. But first, let's start with the good points. So first of all, it is completely free to send USDT on Plasma. So this is probably their most bullish point. And ultimately, it's a stablecoin native chain. It's also pretty fast as well to send. And that in itself gives it a Tron kind of advantage. Tether was also an investor and backer of the project as well. And the project raised over $24 million from VCs and $373 million in a public sale, which was oversubscribed by 7x, which basically just shows early and strong interest in the project. So that's the good. Now let's get to the bad, because look, to be honest, I am not going to tell you what you want to know. I'm going to tell you what you need to know, because there are people saying that, this is going to 2.5x easily, or, they're saying that it's the next XRP, or, for example, there's going to be a potential 66x on launch, right? I mean, that's pretty crazy. So with that said, let's get some expectations in check and in order. First of all, the project is down 74% in the past year. So shortly after TGE, there was something called, or at least what I coined as the post-slump TGE, which basically right as the project comes out within a couple of hours or that day, the project will then dip, usually 20%, sometimes 50% or even more. And then the project did pretty well, going up to $3 billion for a total market cap. But if we zoom out now, the project is down to $375 million for a market cap with an FDV of $2 billion. So the first point is low float, high FDV, and it really just has an Aptos style dilution, right? And I made a video about Aptos as well if you want to check that out, why I'm bearish on it. And right now, the total circulating supply is about 18% of the total supply. So with this project, there is 1.8 billion tokens circulating, 1.8 billion, but there is going to be 10 billion total, right? That is in the total supply right now. But along with that, there is also no max supply. There is not a cap. Now, along with that, the inflation is also permanent. So the inflation is going to be set at 5%, and then that will slowly go down to eventually 3%. So unless this project is met with demand, holders are going to be met with dilution issues constantly, because there's 10 billion in the total supply, but the max supply is going to be infinite at this point. So not only is there going to be around 8 billion tokens that are going to come into supply eventually, but they're also just going to keep printing as well into the future. Now, when taking a look at the TVL, it's honestly not that bad actually taking a look at it. The TVL is $2.6 billion, and it did have an all-time high in October at $6.3 billion, and now it is since gone down more than half, but still it's a pretty good number, $2.6 billion. Taking a look at the chain revenue in the past 24 hours, it's only $1,200, because obviously the chain is extremely fast and cheap to use. Now, when taking a look at a chart like this, a lot of investors are really going to lose confidence in a project like that. I mean, going from $3 billion to $370 million, just very quickly within just a couple months here is kind of concerning to see for a lot of investors. So I'm sure a lot of people would look at a chart like this and not even want to get involved in a project like that. Now, there's also very strong competition from a chain such as Tron, right? There is $4.4 billion in Tron, in TVL. When it comes to the revenue, it's around $1 million in the past 24 hours. And a lot of people are already using Tron. They're using TON. They're using Base. They're using Solana. They're using other layer 2s with very low fees. And so Plasma has to be so competitive against these projects that I'm just betting that it's not going to win. Now, they raised over $500 million in total, which is great, when you take a look at just kind of gauging the interest of the project. So in that case, it did very well. But it kind of looks like a lot of those early holders at least dumped some of their supply very early on, within a week or two of the project launching. And then slowly over time, this project has just been met with basically constant selling pressure. Now, you could also argue that the liquidation event in crypto really just did not do well for a lot of projects that came around in, late summer, early autumn time, right? And, we can see here that the project really kind of dumped around the 10th of October, which was around the liquidation event. And a lot of projects have been just kind of beat up by that event. So it probably wasn't the best timing for a launch either. And I also saw that early plasma growth was an illusion. It was driven only by farming as well. So the rapid inflow of liquidity was ensured by aggressive yield farming programs. About 65% of all stablecoins in plasma were placed in lending protocols for XPL rewards. But as soon as XPL price started to fall, yields dropped in dollar terms, users began withdrawing stablecoins, and liquidity started flowing into other networks. And with Monad being the new shiny L1 that is extremely fast and cheap to use in the space, I think a lot more attention and liquidity is going to be flowing into Monad versus Plasma. So that's all I have for this one. But if you are interested in finding small gems early, you can check out my school group where I go over all things small gems, how to get into projects early, posting analysis, posting new small gems, early TGEs, and also pre-TGE, so before the token even goes live, I'm posting the projects. Learn more in the link below.